We're at 6 o'clock, please, if I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
April Grant,
Yes.
Christopher Dean,
Here.
Scott DeBuck,
Here.
call Adam,
Yep.
Adam,
Here.
here.
Thank you, Terry.
You are.
Go ahead and start the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted on the west wall of the Crawford Public Library. It is also available in pamphlet form and on the website. And just for just an updated, oh, never mind, it's on here. Council meetings are now being videoed and will be available linked to the city's website. Can I get an approval for the minutes of the March 11, 2025 regular meeting, please?
Motion to approve. I'll second it.
Thank you.
Dean,
Yes.
DeBuck,
Yes.
Yep.
do I still call
Yes,
you?
you'll still call me.
Adam Grant.
Yes. Reports, golf, please.
We have a meeting on the 31st.
Okay. Hospital. Do we have anybody attending hospital this time? I don't think so. Villa. Do we have anybody from, did you want to say anything on behalf of Villa? Huh?
Or do you?
Oh, you're going to know more recently than I have because I've been out sick, so.
Well, as of yesterday, we have 22 residents in the nursing home side, and I think it's 6 in assisted living. We have a meeting tomorrow night, and our profit and loss from October 1st, the beginning of our fiscal year, through the end of February, we made $2,576. And the bathhouse is finally complete, and we'll get you the bills.
Wonderful. Swan?
The last minute thing came up, I was not able to attend.
Okay. And NNDC, we had our monthly meeting, I think it was last week. It was last week. We went over financials for last year as a wrap up for annuals, and that all was smooth. We recently got approval for grant funding that was done through funds that the city of Chadron approves. So we got the final approval from the city of Chadron, and so we're up to, I believe, $20,000 grant money to help prolong the new website and the upkeep of the website with social marketing. So that's exciting here. That's about all we have for NNDC. We'll go to unfinished business. Number 7, discuss, approve, disapprove of the Crawford livestock installation of the truck scale alternate locations.
Before we continue, I just want to have everyone be aware that we are 7 bodies over capacity, so that's for safety purposes. We have the 2 exits, and if all hell broke loose, you guys might be tripping over each other, hurting each other, not making it out. So however you guys would like to proceed with that, but that's from the State Fire Marshal. Thank you.
Thank you for the announcement. Back to number 7.
All right, I'll bring this up, and I've talked with the sales barn a few times already in the last couple of weeks, trying to figure out alternate locations other than First Street for a weight scale, okay? And I've invited residents here tonight and everything that live in that area. Got the White River Trail people here tonight to discuss it as well. And I just want to open up the floor to some of the residents and get your thoughts on how you feel about a weight scale potentially being put in on First Street. Anyone want to address it? Okay.
Yeah, First Street's already,
Please stand so they can see you.
okay. Yeah, First Street's a street that's pretty busy all the time. People coming in and out from each one of the streets. And I think that putting something more like that down there would cause a lot more congestion and stuff that would block up a lot of the streets that, for those big trucks and stuff coming off and getting weighed in and stuff. And then they do go a lot of times late at night, going through the scales and stuff. And that's going to disrupt the people that live on Elm Street and stuff. And I think that would be not a good place to have it.
Can you tell us exactly where it's supposed to be? Yeah, tell us exactly where that scale is proposed to be.
It's considered on that plot of land, so it would be
What
the
land?
section of land that is directly across the street, west from Charlie's garage.
Where the
It's-
campers are?
Yes, it would be exactly that sect. It's personally on the city, does not own that sect of land. And they would be selling the land to the sale barn. And it's just that strip, so it's not.
So it's right next to the trail.
It is, well, you've got the kind of the drainage ditch that's naturally occurring there with the trees between there, but it is very close, yes.
I just think it would be an.
Do you want to stand so everybody can hear you, please?
I just think it would be an eyesore to the beginning of our park. We have a beautiful trail, we have a pretty park, and then we're gonna put a scale right there and have our cattle trucks and our hay trucks. There's gotta be a better place to put that, maybe farther north, to get away from the park, getting closer to the sale barn. Or by the blue chip. Yep. Somewhere close to the highway, there isn't in a residential area. That's my opinion.
Jolene?
I agree with Connie for several points, and like she said, it is a beautiful entrance to our park. But kind of along where Brian was going with it, with the congestion of the trucks, you know, it is the entrance to the park. There's a lot of kids coming and going. I hate to say it, I've seen a lot of those cattle trucks just roll right through that stop sign. They hardly slow down sometimes. Jake braking. I'm not against the scale. I'm against the location. I live right across the street from it. It would be in my backyard. You know, not only the noise, the congestion, the smell. I think there could be a much better location for it.
Anybody else?
So I'm a proponent of where they're gonna put it. I guess my thing is this gonna be above ground or below ground?
It's above ground.
So it's above ground, so you are gonna be able to see this. As far as traffic is, it's gonna be no different than what is already running through there. We've already got traffic, bull wagon traffic running up and down that street. As far as waste, these guys that are running commercial trucks, these traps are sealed. I've run these for years and years. If they have any waste, that needs to be on the rep. And he wouldn't be loading that truck anyway. He'd be kicking them out. They're not gonna put their cattle on dirty trailers. You know, it does happen. You got ranchers come in here, they've got broken down trailers and bad traps. I guarantee it happens. People worried about waste, not gonna be. Worried about sound, there's nobody gonna be parked on there any different what they are. They'll weigh down at the sale barn, or they can weigh up at Wesco and wait for the rep to come get them. They'll come in there, weigh their truck, he'll send them up, more than likely up by the sale barn, and have them parked there, and when he's done, he'll come pick them up. This is a huge opportunity for this community, and it'll make it so much easier for the truck traffic. It'll get them off of 2nd Street, and it should get them off of Main Street, which they don't need to be coming down that hill underneath that viaduct anyway. So if we could keep it all over on First, I know everybody's not gonna agree with that, but that's so much easier on the cattle. It's so much easier, it's set up, it is set up for truck traffic.
I live there, I know all about it.
How is it beneficial to the town?
Yeah.
Wait, well,
Go ahead, Robin.
I mean, how does that keep
Yeah,
keep
I
business in
think
town?
that's a very legitimate question, and I'm sure he'll have some more points too as some other people. I have a couple different points. The sale barn, I'm sure will bring up a couple of them as well to kind of solidify it. But many people in here, almost everyone in this room may or may not be related to a rancher in the community. They come to our churches, their kids go to our schools, and in Dawes and Sioux County in Nebraska, we are the largest hay producers in the state. And something interesting, because not all of the trucks are cattle trucks. A vast majority of them are probably also hay trucks, you know, no cattle waste, you know, anything like that. And there are over 500 producers in Dawes and Sioux County that buy insurance. And the reason I know this is I used to work at the USDA. There's many, many more that are hay producers, but they don't even opt into the insurance. But a huge, huge problem facing the local producers right now is there's only one way to insure hay, and it's through the USDA programs. There's no commercial insurance available for hay crops. There is for corn and commodity crops. And since it's not like you take it to the Hemingford or the Mirage Flats grain bins, you have to weigh your hay, and you have to report that to the USDA every year and for every crop. So like my husband and I, he's actually hauling hay right now, having to use uncertified scales right now, which is a huge no-no for the USDA, and the USDA is really cracking down on our local producers because there's no certified scales within a reasonable distance. 100 miles to Hemingford, almost 100 miles to Hot Springs, and that might be way out of your way. And so they are forcing these producers to go to other towns, and that means they're fueling up in other towns, they're buying snacks in other towns, they're completely bypassing this town, for example, and we sell anywhere from 20 to up to 100 loads of hay, and most of those go right through Crawford, and we head on to Wyoming and Newcastle, and that's just my husband and I, and we're kind of small potatoes compared to a lot of producers around. And so 400 people is a lot of people. That's like almost half the size of Crawford, and that's Dawes and Sioux County alone is the largest hay producers. And like I said, that's just the 400 people that buy insurance. There's dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds more that decide it's not worth it. But the USDA right now is denying people's applications, and we're in a terrible drought right now. And so they're denying people's applications because they cannot weigh their hay. And the reason the weight of the hay is important is because it documents what their production was. Did they get, did their bales this year weigh 800 pounds because it's dry, or did they weigh 1,000 pounds? And then not only the insurance part for farmers and ranchers, but also local people that aren't even farmers and ranchers. We've had several construction people work out or speak up because they need to weigh their concrete. They need to weigh waste. I actually know a guy in Chadron who is a butcher, and he weighs meat just in his car. And he drives his car across, and then he comes across later, and he's got 400 pounds of meat, headed to local grocery stores and things like that. So it's open to anyone. It doesn't have to be a truck. I mean, you could weigh your own vehicle if you were loading up flowers from Walmart. If you want to know how much you got. I mean, it would be open to anyone. So I think it's important not to allow any excuse to bypass a small community and go somewhere else, whether they're fueling up or, just knowing about the town and driving by and seeing that we have certain businesses here and saying, oh, I know, Crawford has a Dollar General or whatever. And so I think that's really important, and I know we would get a lot of use out of it, of course, personally, but it's open to anyone, of course, and forcing people to bypass Crawford is really sad when they could come right on through, and instead they turn north at Chadron because they have to go to Hot Springs, or they turn south and go to Hemingford because they have to weigh there. And that's hundreds of people a year, and honestly, most of those trucks, no one sits on a scale. You're going to be on and off immediately, maybe 60 seconds at tops, just to get out, to get your ticket. And all the traffic, I think, is set up for the streets. It's a better street. It's a little bit wider. So if there's going to be any place, they already have to, there's been a scale here for years. Unfortunately, it's not a wonderful one, but the traffic was already coming through, and so I don't think that anyone will see any change, but I do think that if there is, it will just be benefits to the area. But as far as traffic goes, I would be extremely surprised if there was like a drastic, difference. And if you see someone and there is cattle manure spilling out, call cops. That isn't legal violation. That's not my problem.
That's not, yes, it is, because it is.
The cops are not my problem.
That's not, it's not, the cops aren't her problem.
She's got a good point.
She's
Most
got- thank
towns,
you, Brian.
most towns have a $500 fine
Yes.
for any time that there's any waste in a spot. It's easy work.
But
It's
how
easy
soon are
fix.
you gonna get the cop here?
Mm-hmm.
The
Put
trucker will be
a
gone by
camera.
then.
That's not a
That-
point
it's
right
easy
now.
fix. You put a camera.
But what's the difference of a cattle truck just going up the street and still losing it, whether they stop at the scale or not?
Also, California.
We
Yeah.
can't stop that.
But but you can't, but if they stop at the scale, it's gonna be the same difference whether they're leaving town or not.
What is a good way to be recognized, so this doesn't digress into a shouting match?
That was all of my points to make.
I
so
thank
I'm
you for
happy
your
to-
point,
Yeah,
okay?
thank you.
I wanted to say this, okay? I don't think anyone here is opposed to a weight scale. I want a weight scale in Crawford. I just don't want that location because it affects the residents.
I would like to address that, Scott, if I might. Can I be acknowledged on this?
Yep.
Okay. The fact that we're here arguing about this is kind of a joke to me, and I hear you snickering down there, miss, and I don't know what your name is. If you want to be, if you want to stand up and say something, and we are all here, we're all adults. She was raising some valid points on her behalf. That's her opinion. Doesn't mean she's right or wrong. So I think you're out of line. That's my opinion. Now, I want to address some things. Jolene, you're concerned with the smell and the truck traffic that's going to be congregated at your corner there, and I understand that. Here's how it works, guys. This has been going on for years. We've been dealing with weighing trucks for 35 years or more. Here's how it works. I get a call Tuesday night, got a list of trucks Wednesday morning. Say, meet me at the sale barn. We have plenty of parking in our space over there in the parking lot. That's where I go pick up my trucks. We drive to the scale. It's probably a 15-minute process. Now, as far as any excrement that's coming off those trucks, like Brian alluded to, Robin noted, that is against the law, and we are obligated to make notice of that and call the proper law enforcement officials. Now, if you want to talk about the lack of law enforcement, that's a whole other issue, okay? However, we take that very seriously at the sale barn because it gives us a bad look too. And over the course of my 13 years there, we've had a handful of them that will do exactly what Brian says. They will unload their cattle, they'll come up by the sign by Wisco, and they'll pull their trap and they'll drive up to the highway up here. If we are aware of it, guys, we pursue them and try to at least get them fined or penalized. That, because it makes us look bad too, even though it was none of our doing. So, and I will tell you this, in my experience with weighing thousands of trucks, Brian, when you're on the scale, guys, there's nothing that comes out of those trucks. It's all self-contained, because here's the thing. When we load the cattle in the country, that's weight. So if that weight gets lost from the time it gets loaded to the time we get weighed, then that's going to cost somebody some money. So we work really hard to maintain that weight. But also, the traffic that's going through town right now, guys, is already happening. The scale that's up here that's antiquated, outdated, that we don't have access to on a good, entry point besides going on 1st Street or 2nd Street, whatever the deal with the railroad is, that we can't utilize anymore. The scale's outdated. The trucks that we have over the road now won't fit on it. So we are in a deficit of being able to weigh say a 73-foot truck. I mean, wheelbase, Brian, would that be realistic? That's a 70-foot scale. We tried to buy the scale, guys, from whoever it belongs to now. It's West Plains right now.
Legacy.
Or, no, I think, okay, is it Legacy? I'm sorry.
It was cost prohibitive, and we also don't know who owns the ground that the scale sits on, just like some other properties around town. We would like to, you know, nurture and grow something on some of these properties, but we can't figure out who actually owns them. We would love to be closer to the sale barn. We just don't have any other avenues right now that even comes close. The balloon building area would be an ideal spot. However, I think that that would also be a better suited spot for maybe if we could ever get lucky enough to incorporate a new motel or something in our area. That would be, you have to agree with me, that would be the ideal spot for it. But then, you know, and Scott had a good proposal for us a couple weeks ago or last week on going further west. Well, then we were dealing with the state as far as getting in and out access to them. That's going to increase the cost of this exponentially. And, you know, we're not made of money. We are willing to do this to help commerce keep going. And like Robin alluded to, there's a lot of hay that lives in this community. And there's certainly no waste from any of that, but there's a lot of people that this is their livelihood. The transaction that they have from selling their cash crop to the next buyer. So we are just trying to help facilitate that. And we are going to use it personally, but the trucks that are going to the sale bar right now on sale day, they won't be any part of that. It's just going to be a handful of video delivery trucks. And that, what I mean by that is we sell cattle on our video sales in the summer. So we go out, we load the cattle at the producer's point of loading, we bring them to town, we weigh the truck, and that's the extent of it. The trucks that are going by the house right now to the sale barn, they will not be utilizing that scale. There's not going to be any of that traffic that gets changed. So, and as far as the look of it, guys, right now you have 2 carports, a camper, and some boats parked there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah,
all we want to do is clean that up. The footprint of this deal is going to be 80 foot with a pipe on it so that people don't drive off inadvertently when they're weighing their trucks. You're going to see 2 pieces of pipe 80 foot long, a slab of cement, and a couple approaches. And then also, another point to consider, we are about bettering this town too. We would like to clean that property up and make it look nicer. And that would be something that we have talked about with, and some grant money is available out there to put up some signs. And we are thinking about a digital sign right now that would say 4th of July. Welcome to Crawford, Nebraska. City Park this way. You know, I don't know what any of that looks like right now. This is kind of premature until we actually get to construction, but we would like to enhance that site too, not make it worse. So if you think what now is tolerable, it's only going to be better. And there's a lot of people in this community that make a living with agriculture. And I know that we all know that. That's why this town's here. And we are just trying to enhance our consignors that work so hard. We're not trying to take away from the residences. And if you guys allow this, we would be a bigger force on that street too, to keep it maintained, keep it cleaned up, and make it more acceptable for the people that come in here and want to look at our community and go, oh, well, at least there's something going on here versus what's going on right now. Anybody else has any questions for me? I would be glad to address them right now.
So I just have a question about like how trucks are going to enter the scale and like how do they turn around? Like, can you give us like the scenario of how that will work?
Sure. Now, if we get to utilize the ground we're on, or that we're going to close on, what our vision is, they would come up First Street and go to Main Street, take a left, turn onto the scale, and we'll have a curb cut going out the other way.
So and they're going to be able to make that sharp of a
Yeah,
turn?
we studied that. Trust me, I mean, But now, if you wanna take something, into consideration on what's going on right now with the scale, the way it sits down here at the grain elevator, that's less than a 90 degree, probably be more like a 70-degree turn that those trucks have to go and make. So pulling up to the street up here at the stop sign and taking a left and pulling on the scale shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. I just didn't know if they were like pulling off of First Street, like, and you were gonna have to put an entrance, like right where the, like, trailer is or whatever, or the boats and.
There will have to be
You'll
an
still have
exit
to-
point down
okay.
there at some point, but we have to work with the city too on, because there's some drainage issues with that, but we have studied it. The curb drains are not gonna be in play on that. And guys, we've tried to do this the right way. We went through the planning committee. We didn't just do this haphazardly. We had approval with the planning committee. And I don't know if anybody in this room can tell me the last time that the city stopped something that the planning committee had approved. Any other questions?
This is directed at you, like, for you to answer this, it's more for the council, so. At one point, we were looking at possibly putting a truck fill station up by the tourist booth on that stretch of road there, and that's a pretty long stretch. Is there a possibility, I know it's kind of just wasted ground on the backyard of some of those houses, or just an ugly hill, way we could cut in 10, 15 feet into that, those cheap blocks for $150 that you pay out behind Dollar General, put those in there. You guys should have easy access to both highways.
But it's still people's residences. They live above there. It would be no different than if they're worried about the noise and whatnot.
I think it'd be a lot different, I guess, from being down in this area to being up on the highway. It'd be, like, if you guys talked about the balloon building, it'd be your best possible piece of property.
Well, one thing to consider, Brent, is, yeah, that is possible. But cutting back into that bank and installing those blocks.
I don't even know that you have to.
It's
like,
gonna
we
be-
can go up and measure. I'm
it's
just
gonna-
trying to give you guys a better option where the traffic stays on the highway. Residents are more happy with the idea.
It's gonna raise our costs exponentially on this project too, and this is personal.
Well, we don't even know that we have to get into that though. And it's the city property where the city could lease you guys the property or something
So
along that line.
that loop is not strictly just city property, because that's where the old highway used to be, so that does, we found that it impacts us from the
The
state of
north side
Nebraska.
of the
and
state
not-
would be city property,
The
correct?
city has a lot that's in that area.
And that was a proposal that Scott had brought to us too, and we're like, oh yeah, that'd be ideal. I mean, you got access from both highways, pretty clean shot, but as it turns out, the property ownership.
Actually, we've got Dallas County Abstract looking at the rest of that, right? As far as, it's recognized as a 9 series property, so we're not sure if Department Road still has retained. So maybe the
So it is
south,
possible.
so maybe the south side of that road even, which would be better for ground. And I've talked to everybody, we've requested that. They've started to look at it. They didn't have a first night as to what that would be. But we have looked at that, because it would be a pretty good access point with the old highway there, getting in and out.
Can I bring up
I've talked with the wife of Dr. Barn as well about that, so, but I don't think they haven't looked at that yet, so.
One last point I want to leave with you folks is, we are on a timeline. Summer's coming. We all know how the supply chain's working now with things that we need to get ordered and procured. We would really like to have this done by July so we could utilize it for commerce. However, the further that this drags out, it puts us up against a timeline that's not doable. So we're not asking for any special favors, guys. We want to make it better. We don't want to impede on anybody's well-being. However, I really think that you're going to notice a very slight difference into the impact it's going to have on you. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it.
And I just had one question. Is this open to all sorts of trucks?
Yes.
Not just hay?
It's
So we can
nothing
use gas
personal.
trucks or
We are going to
whatever?
benefit from it, certainly. And that's another thing is, we talked to people at Swan, and now they won't be able to utilize weighing the waste from the dump up here, because they have a contract with the people that they're weighing right now for 10 more years. However, what it will do is give people in Crawford a means to weigh, say you have to clean up your yard, tear down a building, whatever, throw it all in a big dumpster. You won't have to go into Chadron through the town, weigh, come back out of town and go up to Swan. You can just bypass that and go right up there. And then also, I got this, honey. The scale that's being utilized in Chadron right now, guys, is going to be the same, in my opinion, and I've talked to people that are at Capacity and Legacy Co-op that, well, they didn't buy these two. They didn't buy the co-op or the West Plains grain elevator here or the one in Chadron because they're going to probably disclose them. So then we're stuck with another relic that's up here that's going to be falling down, that's going to be who knows responsibility to take care of. So it's a matter of time before that one's not certified. And the reason we haven't been able to use this one up here is twofold. It's not big enough, but also it's not a certified scale, so it's not legal to weigh cattle for commerce on there because somebody's going to get the short end of the stick. And $2.50 a pound for a piece of meat right now on a truck, it adds up pretty quick.
Well, the other point I'd like to make is the closest certified scale, if we don't put one here, is Lusk, Hemingford, or Chadron. You're adding 60 miles on the freight, which it don't seem like much, but you can split times that to $5.50 a mile. That's a $400 bill on top of it. That adds up. Plus the shrink you're losing going over and back. Them ranchers are losing. So putting a certified scale in this area is very important. It is huge for our ranchers.
And that's a great point, Brian. And also, it puts our producers at a disadvantage when you add freight miles onto their product. These people that buy cattle across this country, guys, they have them dialed in down to the penny. Now, if I've got a great set of spayed heifers that are just like the ones in Ogallala that are 5 miles from the scale, and they look at this, oh, you got an 80-mile turnaround to get them weighed. Because we never know who's going to buy the cattle on these sales guys until the hammer drops on them. They might be going the wrong way for 80 miles to get weighed, or at least certainly 40 miles. So it's a disadvantage to our consigners in our area for the value of their product. And they got the best product in the world, quite frankly. They should be getting paid for it. That's all I got to say. If anybody else has any questions, I'm here.
I did want to say one more thing. I think maybe a lot of people have probably seen scales and driven by them, but may have never even noticed. For example, in Hot Springs, that scale would look just like this one, and I'm sure we've all stopped at the Coffee Cup on our way to Rapid, where all the trucks park right by the diesel. It's they just have a sign, and then it's concrete and a little pipe, and hundreds of thousands of cattle probably get weighed across that. And hey, I'm sure you've been across it more times than I have, but I've never once seen waste on it as many times as my husband and I have gone across it, or just driving our vehicle up there. And so that's a good example of what it would look like. It would be no different, and it's just concrete basically.
The footprint is totally concrete.
Yep.
Do you have a picture you could pull up on your phone so people
I bet I
can see it?
could, yeah, I'll work on that real quick.
I think, and maybe I'm speaking out of line here, we're an agricultural community. Okay, if the ranchers, I haul hay with my pickup and flatbed. I need to weigh. You can't get in down there. Since the railroad blocked that street off, that's another story. But I know some of you are concerned about how it looks, but drive out in the country and look at Rich's place. It's spotless. And if he says he's going to keep the area cleaned up, it'll be clean. I trust him on that. Now, you might get 1 or 2 extra trucks, who knows? But this is one of the largest employers in Crawford. Think of the revenue this brings to town. These guys might pull in here and weigh. They might stop up at Hauser's and get fuel. They might stop at Brent's and grab something to eat before they get going. That's all income for you guys, you know. And if you've ever driven a semi, you just can't get a 130-foot semi, truck and trailer, into any spot. You got to have room. And I know somebody was concerned about stopping at the stop signs, the kids and all that.
That's my biggest concern.
Okay.
The danger of
Get a contract with the county, get a hold of the sheriff and get that finalized and get it done, and then tell them, watch this corner. If slop's coming out of the truck, tell them to write a ticket. If you see somebody not stopping at a stop sign, write them a ticket. There's not gonna be a sign up on the highway that says scale down here, so you're not gonna pick up any more truck traffic. If you're worried about a jake brake, put a sign up there that says no jake braking coming
There
down.
is
First.
still a sign.
Put a sign up, put 2 of them up there.
But then they, yeah, and so
You know,
that-
if they do it, tell the law, write them a ticket.
So
You
that
know.
would be my request, adding on to that. You know, I'm for the scale. I'm not for the location, but if it goes through, it is what it is. So my only request is, yeah, clear up on the south side. There is a sign that says silent, no jake braking or whatever. But my request would be to put it all the way down. I see out my front window all the time. People are speeding down First Street. It's 20 miles an hour. I myself speed on that street. It's never enforced. I drive past Jeannie at the community building driving 30 and I never get pulled over. Not one time have I ever got pulled over. That's not your guys' fault. Visit with our sheriffs and have them do something about it.
So
One at a time, please.
So, can I just finish really quick? My other concern is just the kids too. We have a lot of kids. I watch the kids going on our street. There is no sidewalk there. Is that an option? I know we have no money, but is that an option if it does pass? Right by Jolene's house to put a not a crosswalk, but a curb with sidewalk and, I don't know, something to help these kids so we're not just driving in the street, you know, or walking in the street.
Everybody walks in the street.
They do. So that is a concern, and yes, I know we can detour them around, but sometimes 8-year-olds are 8-year-olds and they don't listen to their parents. Anyways.
I think you need to do whatever you have to work with them. As far as what it's gonna look like, you got an old white rail car sitting there. Has anybody ever used it? That old elevator's falling in. Look at the other lots down there and look how they're maintained.
I agree.
You know, there's no enforcement in Crawford as far as keeping your lot cleaned up.
Yeah.
You can go to any block in Crawford and find a burned up house or a junk hole.
Real quick, Ronnie, you've been waiting for a while.
I just got a question for Rick. There's not enough room to get up on that 50-year lease to bring trucks up and make another ramp coming out?
Where are you looking, where would you suggest?
Up where we leased on the other side of the river from the
Ronnie,
side.
we're not gonna put money in the property we don't own. That would be a stupid business move.
But you got a 50-year lease, and then once your lease is up, wouldn't it go back to the city? Or, you see where I'm at?
The accessibility on that hill isn't conducive for 60,000 pound cattle pots going
Is
on.
the bridge okay for that much weight? Maybe not?
And we need power, we also need fiber optic capability to this field. Here's what we're doing, guys. We're gonna make this fully automated. Where you pull up, say you want to weigh a bale of hay or a popload of cattle. Now, and also, secondary note, this isn't gonna be a 24-hour-a-day situation. It's gonna be regulated, and in the summertime, it's probably gonna be 6:30 in the morning, just like the one is down here. Because when we go to weigh cattle, we gotta get them done early and get them on the road, because they might have to go 12 hours in a pot or more to get to their final destination. We need to get our work done. But the way we have it designed right now is gonna be fully automated with a kiosk that's built into the scale, or to the next to the scale, where you pull up, roll down your window, you put your $20 bill in, or whatever the denomination is, and that's never gonna make any money, but that's what we're willing to do to help our consigners. You get a ticket punched. Then you go weigh whatever you're weighing, whether it's a bale of hay, a pickup load of junk, whatever it might be, cattle. You come back, you have a code on this ticket, you punch in the code, you get another ticket that has your weight on it and you go about your business. So it's gonna be about as automated as we can make it, but in that capacity, we do need a fiber optic capability to it. To do credit card transactions, and I mean, we gotta keep up with the times as far as what people might have in their wallet that have driven 500 miles to come get a load of cattle, because some of them don't have any cash on them, do they, Brian?
You don't carry cash.
So, anyway, we do need some infrastructure to back this up as far as fiber optics. I don't know what CenturyLink has going right now, but we know it's down there, so we can tap into that to help the transaction take place. We'd like to all be cash, but we're moving more and more to less cash all the time in our society. So we're trying to accommodate anybody in our community that needs to utilize the scale.
You should take Bitcoin.
Now,
And we can't rule Bitcoin out.
yeah, but April did have a good point that to lessen some of the inconvenient times, you know, maybe it's $20, 6:30 to 6:30, but if we can figure out how the device works, which we don't know yet, but then maybe it's more expensive to weigh super early in the morning or super late at night to alleviate some of the noise. We're willing to work on that, and we just thought that might be a good idea or a good way to say, oh geez, I don't want to pay extra for this, so I will just wait till we can weigh at 6:30.
But also, as it being a private entity, guys, we will be in control of when it does get utilized. Now, there's going to be some outliers. I can't tell you there won't be. However, our vision for it is to clean up the lot, put in a nice scale, have some lighting over there that is going to make that corner safer too. You know, some extra lighting available. And then also it'd be our obligation to keep the snow removed, and any improprieties that might happen with it will be our responsibility to take care of.
I think a scale is obviously a necessity for Crawford. Adam, you said something about the state of Nebraska or whatever that was, measurements or something. When will that study or whatever you were talking about?
Well, we were just checking the title. We were checking on the title of the ground where Highway 271 intersects on the corner with 20, where the visitor center sits.
Right.
In that area.
When will that be?
Probably next week. I won't hear
Oh, okay,
next week.
so
I can tell you that they've looked, they've looked at a lot of locations in this town. It's just landlocked. You guys are landlocked. It's a problem. You got the state on one side. Some of the issue is, which concerns me, if the city owns a piece of ground and say we want to sell it, it goes through an auction process. So there's no guarantees that they would get it. The balloon area being a prime concern with that, because there would be other developers, because we've heard it for years, interested in that piece of property. Plus there's access issues with the state highway, whether they can get on with trucks and get off with trucks. There's some things that don't make that an ideal setting. That area that was brought up by Brett would seem to be a pretty good area because there is the old highway there. But again, the city does own a lot there where the old water pipe was.
Right.
But it's not, that lot on its own is not big enough and not level enough for what they're looking for.
So you'll know by next week.
That's what I was told today.
Says on that property.
That's what I was told today from the abstract company.
I've got one last thing to say, guys, if you allow me to. I want to thank you all for coming and either being a proponent or an opponent. We are a community. We are all in this community together. We all have its best interest in mind. We might not see eye to eye. However, at the end of the day, we all have our opinions. And I appreciate you voicing them. However, this is our opinion and this is what we would like to do. And like I said, time is ticking, guys. We really need to get some infrastructure coming. We need to get some people lined up to do some concrete work. It's already almost April. We're staring at July. So anyway, thank you for your concerns. Appreciate your input.
I do have some stuff for what it's worth. Robin, you said that it's not just the cattle pots that are coming up and down and stuff like that. It's gonna be hay trucks, everything else like that. I mean, you're looking at probably 3 times more the traffic than just the cattle hauling. Is there any plan for First Street for how thick that concrete is? I mean, it's already getting rough on the surface. Is it thick enough to handle that? And is the city prepared to make the repairs needed on that street to bring a milling company in to bring it down? And if it needs it, for the weight that's gonna be going up and down that, breaking the water mains, that we've already had 2 or 3 already this year that have happened on that.
Sure,
And-
valid concern.
And the
First Street's actually our best paved, best street we have, unfortunately. We're looking at that citywide, really. I mean,
Yeah.
we're to the point now where citywide, we need to make sure that we consider what's being done to our infrastructure, how our roads are holding up. Unfortunately, when it's our best street, it can handle it the best than the others, and they're all aging. They're all aging.
And the
So that
void
does
that's
make us a
underneath the
challenge.
sewer that's been there for 2 years, you know,
Say that one again.
the void that's underneath the sewer, right out in front of Jolene's house.
Right.
I mean, that's going
Right.
that's gonna come in eventually, that's gonna collapse.
Right,
And
and we've
I
had
hope
that
it's not on a
on again,
semi
off
or
again, yes.
a local that does that too.
Sure.
But, and I just want to applaud Rich and Alicia for bringing this into town. Like you say, I'm totally for it. I'm just not a big fan of where it's going to be, because even the people that live in that neighborhood right there, if eventually if somebody wants to sell, and that could be a huge selling point or a deal breaker for someone, well, hell, I don't want to live right next to a truck scale with somebody that moves from Colorado or the eastern end of the state that wants to get out of the rat race and say, I don't want that noise or that smell, or, you know, every concern that everybody's brought up tonight, they could bring that up too. But that's just how I feel about it. I would love to see it here in town. We need it. I produce hay. It's not here, it's down by Alliance, but, you know, it would be nice to have something like that that we could weigh everything. It's something great for the community. But like you said, I'm just not a big fan of where it's gonna be at. But if it goes through, it goes through. We'll deal with it. I want to thank everybody for being professional tonight. I know the last meeting, it kind of got a little chippy, a little excited. I wanted to hear everybody's opinions, okay? And I think the sale barn knows I have worked tirelessly trying to figure out alternate locations for this and everything. You know, I honestly still believe, you know, First Street's not the ideal choice, okay? And that's my opinion, much like Rich has his opinion, okay? I think we still can come up with a better location. I do, honestly, okay? And as a constituent out here in the crowd, okay, my whole responsibility as a council member is to listen to the residents. Okay, that's part of our job as council members, is to hear what the residents have. So I appreciate all the residents showing up tonight and giving me their feelings, their personal opinions on this matter, okay? At this time, I don't think we can move forward until at least we hear back from the other property. I think we have to hear back from the other property to see if that would be a better location.
I too have given this a lot of thought, talked to a lot of people. And I was on the planning commission for 2 years before, right, Raylene, about 2 years before I don't know. Beside the point. So, we don't have an ordinance against anything like this. And therefore the city doesn't have a leg to stand on to say no. We could end up being drug into court if we say no because we don't have an ordinance. Now this comes up, I don't know, every couple of months. Somebody wants to do something in town and people don't like it, not in my neighborhood, and we don't have an ordinance for it. So, yes, I've talked to a lot of people, and most people aren't happy with the location of it. Now this is a private sale between 2 or 4 or whatever private citizens. what legal standing does the city have to say, Rich, Alicia, you can't do what you want to do on your commercially zoned property that you just purchased?
Actually, to correct you, it is just for the public, it is zone industrial. Pursuant to our zoning ordinances, it is not restricted. This would be a use that's worked in that area. So we do have an ordinance. It may not be the ordinance everybody likes right now, but there is zoning in that area, and it is industrial. So that's where we're at. And that's why the planning commission approved it.
It's industrial.
And that's why.
So you can put campers there, that's industrial?
They have.
Yeah, they have.
It's not permanent. It's not affixed to the property.
So I guess at this time, what I would like to throw out there, and after discussing it with our city attorney and numerous other people, citizens of town, is the city owns on the other side of Main Street where the box car is. Everybody knows where the white box car is. That was a trade when the...
We'll clarify that. We're also making sure our title's good on that property. But across Main Street to the north, at the entrance of the park on the other side of Main Street, the city does own a similar lot that we're talking about. It was part of the trade when the fire hall was built, the new fire hall was built. Again, we're checking the title on that. Again, I'll hear on that.
You got a title to that land?
I've requested that they confirm the title on that as well.
Oh, okay.
So it's very similar and would work for them, I believe. It is a little farther away from the residential area.
I still don't know where you mean.
Just right,
So-
like if you're going
Right
to the
across
sale
the
barn and there's a lot right there in front of the park right there, then you go across the street and it's right.
So the lot that
Right,
they
so
are
that's what
considering
they're doing.
purchasing at this time is the south,
It's really close to our place.
it's the south
It's across
entrance.
the road from our.
This would be just north of
Almost.
the entrance, so it just mirrored north of what they were considering.
West of the honey building.
Right.
That sounds like a way better. Oh, yeah.
And it would end right after the boxcar is where it's drawn on the map.
The issue with that, and I'll circle back to, if the city owns it, there may have to be a trade if they did buy the lots they're looking at. Because again, either we have a lease, which I've done this long enough that some councils make a lease and the next council doesn't like the lease. They would like to own the piece of ground they're putting this on. So they are assured of their control throughout time, not the whims of elected officials. To make that happen, just say, Ronnie, to make that happen, I think that the city would have to be able to trade. They would have to trade us for like lots. And that's something that's being considered. Again, this isn't gone in lightly. I don't want anybody to think that. Everybody's made calls. I know Alicia has. I've looked at it. We've talked to the title company. The city actually has some lots on further down. They're just not quite big enough to suit the purposes of this. MPPD has a lot that we've reached out to them because we have a lot next to the MPPD building that we're never going to use. It's a triangle. It's right next to the building. Making some kind of three-way swap to make this happen, okay? So that's where the city's at. The city's, we would love them to find a lot on their own, build it, but we are working. I know Scott's looked at many, many places. I've looked at a lot of lots in this town as to where would be the best place for the concerns of the people. Alicia has as well. So this hasn't gone in lightly. We will look at what our title situation is. I believe we're good on the lot north of Main Street. I just wanted to ensure that. I have no idea down there on the corner. I suspect the Department of Roads still owns that, and there's no way in a timely fashion, even if they wanted to sell a chunk of that to the sale barn in a timely fashion, the way the state Department of Roads works, it would be a tough deal. So that's kind of what's at. Ronnie, you got a question?
Question going on what you were talking about as far as on the other side of the Main Street, you know, that would, and it's just my opinion, that would make more sense where they could come down First Street, drive right in and drive right back out and go down to Sale Barn instead of having a lot of turning. I think that's what a lot of people are worried about is turning trucks there.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion.
But to me, it's a very similar lot. They're aware of it.
Okay.
It is farther from more residential, I won't say all residential, but farther from more residential houses. And then again, it is as well zoned industrial. It's part of our industrial zone, which is that Main Street corridor, okay, going out to the park.
Rich, would you be okay with tabling this until next meeting, until we can get all these answers on property?
If they table it, they're gonna have to vote at the next meeting one way or the other.
Okay. Fair.
We appreciate that. We'll go ahead and table number 7, please.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to table the Crawford livestock truck scale till next meeting.
I'll second that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dean,
Yes.
Sabah,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes. Under new business, number 8, discuss, approve, disapprove the treasurer's reports from December 2024, January, and February 2025, please.
All right. Everybody, I'm Terry Miller. I'm the new treasurer, city clerk. I've got 4 weeks under my belt, so here we go. It was tasked with me a little bit to to present a treasurer's report for December and January, which I was not here for. So I'm going to go over those first, and then the third one in February would be as I've come into the process of working on the treasurer's reports. And I'm sure everybody in here is extremely versed at reading these numbers and these kinds of reports. I'm going to walk us through them just a little bit for the council's purpose. They haven't seen a lot of these reports yet.
Could we have order, please? She's trying to prepare, so if you want to go ahead and head outside, if you want to finish something, that'd be great. Thank you. Go ahead, Terry.
Council hasn't seen, I don't know, for a while, reports like these that actually come out of our system. They've seen some Excel spreadsheets and things like that that have been compiled based on this data. So it is I want us to go forward using these types of reports, which are directly out of our system. And so I just am going to do a little high level education on what you're looking at, and then wrap it up with kind of what it looks like overall, if that's okay. So I know that you have 3 packets in that you have, and that one of them, and I highlighted them. Scott, they would be probably back behind there. And it's important to look at the top because you've got December's, we've got January's, and we've got February. So let's start with December. I've got notes that are written all over this down at the bottom, trying to assist in understanding some of the terms that we're dealing with in the treasurer's report. And just as a side note, we are in an audit right now, and that audit is to be completed around the end of April here, where the auditing company is also going to come out, and there will be some modifications, some things that will be placed in the appropriate places in the books if we haven't quite covered that. And so some of the numbers further back we can't mess with, even so we've cleaned up quite a bit of the numbers and the items in the reports. Since the ARP money was obligated to reimburse us for the water expenses, a lot of monies from our general fund have pulled on water. So when you're looking at some of our reports, just keep in mind we have a general account, Big Mama Bear account that feeds all the babies, in essence, okay? And so all the babies down the road would be general, police, street, garbage, park, all the way down to fire. And then public transportation is their own entity on the reports here as you're looking at the numbers. And then we've got some other funds that are our lottery, our USDA fund, those kinds of things. And there are really restricted funds. They're not supposed to be utilizing them for anything, say, for water, you have to use it for water programs in essence. But all those funds are sitting in the big global, for the most part, except for a couple of them. So in reading some of these, you just want to keep in mind that a change in other assets and a change in liability are going to be detailed further on the next page. So you'll notice two columns, which is change in other assets, change in liabilities, and we're going to hit those in a little bit more understanding here as we go, kind of building on a story to get us to where we are today. The investments columns that you'll see on this report was a lot of our CDs, cash on hand, cash at the county treasurer, which is an auditor's entry and adjusted annually. Other bank accounts like lottery and the Keno funds and utility billing deposits, those are their own little entities in essence. All of the separate accounts are reported on the cash report, and the cash report is just a couple pages in. Okay. Our general fund through public transportation, or what we know as government funds, they're the funds that run the government, that run the city in essence. Golf is a separate business and entity of its own, all right? But they're under the city umbrella. They're proprietary into themselves. If any of the numbers that you're seeing in the assets and the liabilities and under ending cash balance have negatives, that is indicative of money that is due back to the water department, because we've kind of been cheating off of the water funds in order to stay somewhat afloat. All right, so, and that will need to be paid back, and as we go through this, we'll see kind of where we're at for doing that. You can see that at the very bottom of the December fiscal report, down at the bottom, you'll see that it says a balance of government funds, not counting public transportation, that's showing it a negative 142 some odd thousand, and then the balance of golf, and at a negative 204,000. Okay, so those are funds that basically have been spent from the general that's taken from those, or one of those funds has incurred into the deficit for December. All right. The next page is just our assets and liabilities. That is our money in, our money out, and you'll see our numbers there for that. The bank cash report, as I mentioned before, so you'll be able to see each of the accounts and each of the funds broken out on that cash report. And our auditors will be moving money out of it that will need to go to water. So as we get through to the end of our February report, I'm going to wrap that up and what that looks like to us, based on that is definitely going to happen. We've already talked to the auditor, and there are some funds that will need to be moved to catch up water. You'll notice on my December and January, there's not an investments page, which we have on February's. And that's because we're kind of long in the tooth for these reports, and that's just difficult for me to compile. A lot of things have happened around those things, like our CDs and things like that, which are highlighted in the February report, okay? Normally, also, we would be doing transfers quarterly, but we are waiting to see how our April will look before some of those quarterly transfers happen. And what quarterly transfers are for the city, if we've got funds out there, we need to transfer that to try to bring some of the other funds out of negative. We also transfer money for big payments that are coming down the pipe. So we like to transfer those out of the big mother account and try to keep them from being spent, that kind of thing. All right. So the January report, all basically the same stuff. One thing to note as we're building on this story, if you look under ending cash balance on the treasurer's report for January, next to the last column, you'll see that we had cash on hand, cash in the bank at $86,000, $86,957.32. In December, we had 214. So we've eaten away at our cash come January, based on these reports. And where we're at. The other, I think that was one of my biggest highlights there. Yes. All right. So then to kind of wrap this all up, we're going to look at February, which is current to really today. We were jamming numbers even as of today, just to make sure we've got everything in there that we can. Kind of something to kind of highlight in this report, our average bill per month are running around $190,000 a month.
How much?
$190,000 a month. That's everything. You know, payrolls in there, bills, things we owe to CDs and things like that. If you look at our ending cash balance right now, it's at $181,798. Our average bills being at $190,000, we are carrying basically a month-to-month budget. That's what we've got. So we're not flush at all. And unfortunately, you've also heard me mention the AARP funds that the auditor is definitely going to be moving so that it is paying back, because we have USDA loans and you're not allowed to buy into those that water money, and we have. It's floated a lot of the departments. That's why you see these negatives in these ending cash balances under the ending cash balance column next to the last column. Once they move that money, which will happen, that's going to definitely bite in tremendously into what cash we have on hand already. So, because it's all owed to water and sewer. So at the bottom of that first page on the February one, you can see the negatives there and the parentheses of the 144,000 and some money that is should be paid back to the water fund from all of our other babies that have been sucking off of the general account. I don't know if that helps anybody to think of it that way, but it helped me when I heard it from Jane. So I just thought I'd share it. And then golf on its own, and we have looked back at a couple years back, and you know, we were sitting much better a couple years ago than we are today. And part of that is, I think, from what it appears to me, our budget that we started out of the gate with had some issues. And just because it was on that budget doesn't mean it had money to pay for certain things. So it's just been getting eaten up out of the mother fund, and we've bitten into water funds that will get us in some trouble if we don't get that paid back. And we definitely have some big payments coming in September where we've got to have that money back into the water fund. If we don't get that kind of thing going, and we could lose city sales tax monies, we could lose, there's several things that we'll take from that, because they'll look at it like, well, if you had all of this extra money, you didn't need the USDA bonds and things of that nature, which we don't want that to happen. We absolutely don't want that to happen. We had some CDs, some people here will probably remember that this town had a bunch of some CDs out there, money bequeathed to the city, like for cemetery, water monies that we put into CD to try to earn on that. And to date, we have spent, and I wrote those down here. We currently have one CD, and at the back of our, the document where there's an actual Excel spreadsheet, I had to just make sure you felt comfortable having one in front of you. It shows that our large CD, which is about 180,000 or so, that we have in a CD right now, it has been based on a 2005 council ordinance. It's been divvied up amongst all the departments, and a big portion of it is water. So even if you go, we've got a big CD, that CD can't just be cashed to catch up all these departments and try to make them whole, because a lot of that money is water money, and we've already depleted water substantially. So that's where that CD sits. We cashed in 2 more $10,000 CDs in January, I believe it was, and those have been put into water. I don't know how or where that decision came, but they were both put into water. So that was those 2 $10,000. And then we had a large one, $164,000 CD that was cashed in January of this year. And that was all thrown into general funds. No?
It wasn't January of this year.
Oh, I'm sorry, January 24th. I didn't wear my glasses because when I wear my glasses, I can't see out. I can only see like here. So, anyway, so the only CD we're hanging on to right now, and there's one other one for the library. We call it the Lowndes CD. It was money bequeathed to the library, and so we still have that one. So just to kind of wrap up at the end of this, I mean, it's not the best of news, for sure. It means we got work. I thought I'd make t-shirts saying Crawford can. Maybe we can start selling those, I don't know. We're working on a month-to-month budget. Oh, and then our public transportation, Debbie, Dean, right? Real quick, our public transportation, and I like to mention this because they're doing great. Even though they show a negative currently, they're waiting on funds for the transportation. They're running behind on getting those out. That's like $31,000, which pulls them out of their hole. And they've done 527 boardings alone in February. They've been doing an excellent job. So I didn't want anybody to take a look at that number. It's the state got audited, and that has backed them up 6 months on some of those getting those funds out. Thank you.
Do we still have money in the pool fund?
In the pool fund.
We had set aside, or there was, my understanding, 100 and some odd thousand set aside at some point for the pool.
It's not as obvious as that, let's put it that way. So it was with previous council, they had reserved 50,000 out of Keno, and Buffy was going to match that 50,000 with a grant that she was going to find. And then later on down the road, we had issued more towards that area, but we used that towards the first set of fixes. So it was earmarked, but it was never like officially put to the side. So
So there's
still remain earmarked, but because it's not official, I mean, we still have right to use it if we find an emergency where we need to use it somewhere else.
So
And
how much of
unfortunately,
that money is left?
the Keno money's all there, it's not money.
Okay, so it's just Keno money, it's not.
It's just Keno money, so it was,
I remember a meeting when you specifically asked about funding that had been set aside for the pool. And you were told, yes, it's still set aside. Do you recall that amount?
Yes. It was roughly right at 170,000.
Okay, so he was either misled, the money's disappeared, or
The
somebody
money's
made
not
the
anywhere,
executive
it's not
session to
spent.
spend the money, because I remember him as a citizen standing right here, asking us as a council, and I didn't know anything about it. I was fairly new to the council, I had no idea on the money, but it was when it was either at the town hall on the pool itself, I'm pretty sure it was there. But he was told that that money is still set aside for the pool. That's why I'm asking about it, because it.
sure.
Okay, I guess I gotta stand up. Okay, Jane Daly, I'm health training, Terry. Okay, I was here when 50,000 of the Keno money was earmarked for the pool, for the match grant, which the grant never happened. And I believe when, like Councilmember DeBach asked me when I was helping the treasurer's reports between October and November, if there was still 170,000 in the budget for the pool, in the pool budget. So I asked Jeannie, I don't know if she's interim yet or just filling in, but anyway. And she said, yes, it's in the budget, but it's in general, kind of earmarked for the pool. So when I relayed that message at the one meeting at the golf course when the auditor was there, and I said, what you need to ask though is the money actually there, because budget is just a budget. And we know that budget was whack that year. So when they turned in their wish lists to Mike Scow of Dana Cole, and he was doing the spreadsheet for the budget, he applied all the CDs and every asset. He didn't even know at that time, because let me go slow here. He's working on this year's budget for 24 to 25. He's turning that in by September of 24. When did you say we cashed in the 164?
January 2024.
So one problem was he didn't know we already cashed that CD in. So another whack part of that budget, he's applying, which I'll admit I have a bone to pick with him on some things, but I wasn't here at the time. So he's applying all this wish list stuff and balancing it with all the CDs and every asset the city's got, and even that wasn't right because we'd already cashed in those CDs. So it was not real money set aside. It was that 170 had to come in as part of the wish list. It was not
Now, I'll
Keno
say
money, it
on
wasn't
topic-
savings,
sorry.
it wasn't money we really had. So it's not that any money disappeared, it's not that the money was actually there, it was a wish list of a budget. Does
So
that-
on top of, and I think that's the gap between the 100 that I referred to and the other, is we spent, wasn't it close to 70 some with the improvements that we did before we tried to open last year, between the fixes of some of the boiler items and the paint.
I don't remember the exact number. I
And
know
did
we
they ever
spent a
transfer
lot.
Keno money out of Keno
No.
to do that? No,
It
thank
was,
you.
I want to say that came out of what was
So-
so for pool and whatnot, but I know that it was close to in that range of 70 that we spent trying to get it open last year. So I mean, that does have to be considered, and where that, I mean, if you want to refer back to 170, where at least 70 of that would have been.
Well, the question was asked after that, so that's why I was going back to when he asked the question, because that was after the fixes were made. So I just wanted clarification on that to see if there was any funds there that we could stick together. Like, it's kind of, I don't know.
I wish.
That's just, it was clarity for the public more than myself, I guess, at this point, because we're hearing that we don't know who cashed CDs, we don't know where
No, we
Like,
know
it's
who
just-
they cashed, we know that they were cashed, we
We
know
know
who
that they're
cashed them,
cashed.
we know they were all approved to be cashed, it wasn't something just done haphazardly, but it was done, it was approved to be done.
Okay, I apologize because I thought you said something
I
was
probably
cashed in
mumbled.
December that you don't know.
I probably
who approved
mumbled,
it.
I'm sorry, but yeah, no, we know.
Right,
But,
scout.
but it wasn't being related well on your treasury reports that everybody was receiving. And then when Dana Cole and everybody, for Dana Cole is a budgeting
I got you.
people,
Thank you for the
accountant.
clarity.
And, you know, maybe going forward, would we be able to see the treasurer's report on the screen and scroll through?
She offered, and I said we were jumping around between three of them,
Oh,
so
okay.
but she has them.
I do.
If we need to see something.
So I would like to make a statement on this. So what we found out, everybody knows we've had numerous clerks and a lot of issues. What we found out seems like after the fact that the last clerk is gone is we had approved numerous things to come out of the ARPA fund. I actually wrote it on the warrants, ARPA funds, and it was never withdrawn, came out of the general account. There was stuff when we were trying to open the pool last year that was supposed to come out of the Keno funds to pay for that. It never was withdrawn. And so yeah,
We've
that's
had
where
to
we
fix
sit.
several of things that were put in or not put in as a matter of part of it, for example, that there were double entry things too. CDs were entered in there a couple times, and we had to reverse some of that, fix some of that. There's just been, and when you have transitions and not really a good continuity between the role and the next person taking the role, which is something that we're working on a manual and things like that, so that there can be, let's say you run me off, or I win the lottery, I don't know, it could be anything. Somebody could come in and not be starting at the place I'm at and trying to get it cleaned up, getting the numbers being something that you could feel confident in making decisions on what we can buy and not buy. And, you know, right now, no buying. If I was your mother, there'd be no buying.
I do have a question. So in the December report, it's like the fourth page 2 or whatever. It's the last page of page 2. So it says we bought street diesel from Wesco for $3,484. Now, do we send that back in, or do we claim that back to the state to get those street diesel taxes back? Because that's gonna be for the loader and the backhoe, and we should be running off-road diesel and those.
It's, Wesco's an ultimate vendor, and so they do all the tax credit things directly.
Okay.
And-
Before they bill it.
Yeah.
And I get a report, we were looking at one just the other day
Okay.
showing, you know, when they've done that.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the treasury reports for December 2024, January, and February 2025.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Go ahead and roll call.
Oh, Dean,
Yes.
DeBock?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes. Number 9, discuss disapprove refund remaining security top deposit of $134.64 for account 330000105. Motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call.
Dean,
Yes.
DeBock?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes. Number 10, discuss disapprove moving April 8th, 2025 council meeting to April, I'm gonna make a correction, 9th, 2025 at 6 p.m. We've got clerks that will be in training on the 8th, or overlapping the 8th, but I can't do the 9th or the 10th because I don't have a councilman available that day. So we're gonna split the difference if you guys can make that happen. And pick the 9th if that's available. So if I could have a motion for that, please.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Move the meeting to the 9th.
Second.
Okay, Devon?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes. Number 11, discuss approve, disapprove advertising for bids on the removal of the rodeo grandstands. And then we also need to add to that, asking JEO what they would consider for kind of bid standards or recommendations of specs.
Okay.
Hold on.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I tried to bring this to you guys months ago, but nobody wants to talk. But you guys need to choose on whether you want a wall or whether you want to tier the hill, whether you want to grass it. That's the starting point with JEO. Before you even reach out to them, you guys have to decide what you want to do for them to start the bid process. Because just like the grates, they need to draw up something in order to bid it. That's why the last meeting, or the meeting that I resigned, I guess, recommendation, cheapest possible way is to dirt and seed it. We don't have any money. So I mean,
Cleaning up what we take down is gonna be.
if you take it down, you can't leave it exposed or the road could collapse. There's concrete up there. You need some sort of drainage. If you're gonna do it that way, you can get by without drainage with just seeding for probably a couple, 2 to 3 years. The other engineer that walked through said it saves you guys a lot of money right now to buy you some time to get grant money, do whatever you need to do.
I don't know if this is even an option. I called Murphy Tractor in Gearing, talked to Mike Bateman, he's a salesman down there, and asked him what you could rent a excavator for with a jackhammer. He said the excavator, John Deere 85, is about $1,700 a week. The jackhammer is $1,300 a week, probably $600 to $700 to haul it up here and haul it back. You don't know what's in there for rebar, if there's just wire in there, so it's hard to gauge how long it's gonna take you to jackhammer that out. I talked to Brooke a little bit this morning. You might get started and find out there's rails in there off the railroad track. You're not gonna know. And you're gonna have to haul it away. Another option might be, and Adam might have the phone number, is to call, I think Sioux County, they call a company to come in and grind their rock for them. Maybe call them, get the number from Adam, or get online, I don't know. See if you can get a crusher or grinder to come in and grind it right there.
Swan was here at last meeting and they discussed they're gonna bring a grinder in for multiple towns. They're working on a grant on that already.
Okay. You know, then you can use that grinding to put on your city streets and your alleys and everything else. You'd have to do some investigating to see which way is gonna be cheaper for you. I don't know if you have anybody that can run, you know, a little excavator. I think the county guys are working 410s now. Maybe you could talk to Pete Emerson, you know, maybe he could run it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I could probably squeeze in a day or two to help. You know, call Prosser, call Ty Watson, maybe he'd run it for a day or two, you know, if it'd help you save money.
I appreciate the money angle on that, but I think I agree with Brent on this. I don't want to lose that hill. And that's why I think the engineering needs to be happening. I agree with him. Right now, all you can afford is get it off there and stabilize this side of the hill. I mean, it's not gonna be anything fancy. Seed it back. Maybe with that plan, you can find some in-kind or some kind of local help.
Yeah.
I think that's a possibility, but I think we certainly need to have somebody to make sure we stabilize that hill, don't lose it. And yeah, JEO's a cost, but they've been there, they kind of know what's going on. And they have, I think Brent's right, I think that right now, basics.
Yeah.
Just get it off there and stabilize the hillside. Down the road, maybe you can figure out what to do with it for the long term, but.
I was just thinking it'd be a different option to,
Sure.
rather than paying somebody $100,000 to come in, jackhammer and haul it away, you know.
Well, so like, I gave you the information last time too, but the one was, I think 36,000 was his rough estimate to get it off the hill, but your other big concern is even moving the trucks to the corner over there by the north side of the motocross. Because if you're talking 650,000 pounds worth of concrete sitting on that hill, which is JEO's estimate, that's a lot of dump trucks, even to go that short distance. We only have one, so, I mean, I don't know the towns around here, if anybody has 2-3 dump trucks in their town, or Shattering could bring some more, I don't know, but that's another part of that is just the diesel alone, to run that back and forth, the man hours, get that a quarter mile away, 1/8 mile away, I mean, it's a lot of trips.
Yeah.
So, I mean, getting it off the hill's one cost, getting it over there is the other cost, and then tiering it or seeding it, whatever you need to do, but, I mean, right, I mean.
Well, that's what the engineer said,
That's the second engineer, plus.
and then
the-
blanket it.
Yeah, blanket it.
Slope the
so-
hill and blanket seed it, and leave it alone.
For 2 to 3 years tops, so yeah, you're gonna get channels and it's gonna wash out and you're gonna have big troubles down the road if you don't plan on doing something with it. It's gonna need drainage at some point. It's just too much water and too much of a dry grounds that you're gonna have fish pepper issues.
I think the most important thing right now is the safety factor. You know, timing is gonna be critical because of rodeo. We gotta get it off the hill before and give it time where we can blanket it, fill it in with dirt, you know. And then we're gonna have to figure out what we wanna do to move forward as far as improving the hill and putting grandstands back in. But for right now, it's a matter of just getting it off the hill. We're 45 to 60 days out before they're probably even gonna start working on it if we do get bids right now. I mean, we're pushing close to July at that point.
If it's somebody local, maybe they feel our pain and, you know, the importance of the rodeo and will hot box it for us.
And JEO would probably work with somebody local if there was somebody who's willing to do it and they felt comfortable. I think right now you just need to get JEO working on the specs. And to me, you just wanna get it out there and stabilize that hillside. And it's as basic as possible.
So you recommended we run this all through JEO instead of putting out our own personal bid?
Anytime the bid's gonna be more than 30 grand, you gotta have an engineer by statute, and it's gonna be more than 30 grand, even if it's 36. You know.
Okay.
And it is a safety concern, so I would highly recommend, both personally and statutorily, that you get JEO involved.
Well, I'll make a motion to get JEO started on figuring out the project as a whole and getting bids set up so we can see exactly what it's gonna cost us to get it out.
I'd just make a recommendation, whoever talks to them, stress, no drainage at this time. I mean, Jack's really good at that, relaying that to the engineers, but stress to Jack when you talk to them that no drainage, just see whatever it takes to get it down and
Stabilize the hill.
DeBuck?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes. Number 12, discuss, approve, disapprove advertising for new council members and all other open spots. I'm assuming that's board members.
I'll make a motion to approve advertising for a new council member and their spots.
Second.
DeBuck?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Can we pick an alternate too? Just so we have somebody in waiting.
13, discuss, approve, disapprove the American Cell Tower contract.
Alright, I know we received email back from American Cell Tower and they were not willing to budge, not 1 cent, not 1 penny. It's stuck, 225,000 is where they're at, and that's, you know, their final offer at this time. So, I mean, I don't know. Skip, what is your mindset on that?
Can't give perpetual control to any outside company on ground that is part of our critical infrastructure. That's the big red flag for me in that contract. And I believe that, I think they will come back around with something, but at this point, we're better off to It's $12,097 or something like that this year that they pay. Next year it goes up another 3%, and in the long run, we end up with more money than the 225, but it's the perpetual control, and I can't vote to give that away, so.
I took a little bit of time before the meeting started and tried to figure out with compounded interest and everything. And it comes out to about $180,000 in payments between now and 2039 with a 3% interest compound. So, I mean, I see both sides of it here. I mean, I see where the city needs money right now, but I also see, you know, your point too.
It leaves a $12,000+ hole in our budget every year going forward. So I think this has to be a calculated decision, and I've thought a lot about this, and I feel it's in the best interest of the city not to give control of that land to American Tower. Perpetually.
Let me ask this, and this is more towards the attorney, I guess. Is there a way we could reword the contract, leave it at the $225,000, but take that control away from it?
The response was, that I sent out to everybody, was that there were some other issues or points that could be negotiated. They just wouldn't negotiate the 225. So the perpetual may be something that they would discuss.
So did you reach out to them
I'm
after
waiting.
the last meeting to find out what that meant to them as far as, is it just the length of the tower standing, like, when we talked to them?
They said till we're done with it, we're done with it, yeah. Which
is basically the
then
same
they
thing
would
we got
abandon,
now.
it would be an abandonment at that point. Like I said, there's some points that they would negotiate, but the 225 wasn't one of them.
No.
That's up to you.
I guess I'd be okay with the 225 as long as we could restructure it to where we're not giving them the control.
Term for you.
Okay, so we sent it back to them from the 215 to the 225 with the understanding and approval by the council that we'd accept it if they gave us the 225. At that point, we wanted to use some of the money to pay off some debt to save interest over the long term. But the perpetual use that we keep saying here, this isn't for 100 years, this is the life of the tower.
No, this is
But that's not
forever.
the way the
This
contract
is
is.
forever.
This is what I have stressed a couple times, is Adam reaching out to the company and finding out exactly what that verbiage meant. Because when Tony and I talked to the representative, that's not the way they understand perpetual easement. It is the life of the tower, and then they had 7 years after they were done using the tower to be able to tear it down. They said that could be negotiated.
That's not necessarily how that agreement, I'm fine.
I understand that, but that's why I asked you
I'm
2
fine
weeks
with it.
ago to reach out to the company.
Well, I'm working at the
After I'd
request.
already emailed or responded to your initial email on that question, because I'm the one that said, that doesn't sound right. That's not what the representative told me and Tony when we talked to them. So would you please find out? And then again, I asked you 2 weeks ago. So this, at this point, the perpetual part of that terminology, that needs to be verified with the company, because now it's too late. What is there, 3 days left before it needs to be approved or it's gone?
Actually, that time is run. We've been in contact with them.
So,
And they sent a
but we
response.
have still not asked that simple question of what the perpetual easement means. Is it the life of the tower?
Well,
And is there anything in the old
the question is,
agreement?
how do we change the language that's more clearly indicates what that is? Perpetual is often a word that shouldn't be used in a situation like this.
I
agree.
understand that completely.
I agree.
That's why I wanted
And
clarification.
if that's the direction of the council as a whole, then I'm certainly willing to say, hey, we want a term for years here. Whether it's 15, 25, because we sent back 25. That was the request. of the
Yeah, but
council.
we also asked for $375,000 to use a calculator for this.
No, the amount is what I was told to send them, okay? If I'm directed tonight to send back something that says 25 years, we'll go with this for 25 years, 15 years, 20, I'm just waiting for
What's the
direction.
old contract say? So
We go to
when it
30.
The
expires
old
in
contract doesn't say perpetual, that's why
It
it's okay
ends-
for it, we.
The
that's what's
payments
on.
end in 2039, but how long do they have to tear down the tower?
I believe it says that they're done in 39.
So it comes down to day of,
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
but no, I
Well,
mean,
no,
these are the things that,
It's fine.
the contract's probably extremely comparable. This is a Fortune 500 company that, this is what they deal with. They're not a foreign company. Okay, so the
No,
way they
it's
deal with.
BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street that.
No, they don't.
Yes, it is.
No,
It's
it isn't.
100% owned by
Let's not get into
institutional
that.
investors,
Irregardless
BlackRock,
of what.
Vanguard, and State Street.
I just need direction. Do I need to say term for years? I don't want to use the word perpetual.
Does this town need money right now at this point? There may not be a town in 2039 at this pace.
Let me do this, okay? I would like to make a motion to move forward with the 225,000 with a time limit of 25 years.
Well, I still think there's issues that it's underinsured
Yeah.
for where it is. I mean, I spent a lot of time outlining what I thought were big problems up there. And, so yeah, I mean, if they want to, talk about the other things that were in that, proposal, then yeah, I think we should negotiate all of it.
Now, you're talking about the insurance, that they have to carry the insurance, and everything. I'm okay with that. That part would remain.
Is it currently under?
The only part that I would say
Oh.
change is the years, instead of the perpetual to the 25-year span. Send the same contract that we had him write up, but change to 25 years. Still make them carry the insurance to cover if the tower was to tip over and damage our property.
Which they do now, that we don't feel is enough, so they need to change that to be substantial. And that's part of what we included in the last draft. But, you know, like, we covered quite a few things in the last draft, and they just sent it back and said that they didn't like it because of this. So it just, I mean, you have to deal with, either we make adjustments and we send it back, or vice versa. Like, it's a matter of the negotiations of it. It doesn't mean that they've ex-nate everything, it doesn't mean we've ex-nate everything. It's part of contract negotiation.
I think based off of reading what they sent back, it was the dollar amount that they weren't willing to budget on.
That's the only thing that they said wasn't negotiable.
And that's why I say, if we move forward with the dollar amount that they're okay with, the 225,000, but we change the verbiage to where they have a 25-year on that.
Which was in the one that he sent back, yes.
Yep.
And they didn't say that they said that the other terms could be negotiated. So
To me, the only
they may
change
buy that.
is the price, the amount. Dropping it down to the 225,000 that they're willing to, but keep the rest of what you put into it the same. I'm okay with that.
I'm good with it too.
Okay, I will make a motion to move forward with the 225,000 for a 25-year span, and keeping all the rest of it the same as the last proposed contract.
The insurance also?
That's.
The last
in there.
proposed asked
Yep.
for additional insurance.
It asks them to raise their insurance in case the tower tipped over and damaged the water plant.
There's a lot.
I'll second.
Bob?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
And Grant?
Yes. 14, discuss, approve, disapprove advertising golf in the Post Playhouse.
Amanda, do you have anything on this?
No.
Where's Ann at? She leave?
Yes.
Is there a cost to it? Do you know anything about it?
Well, I'm sure the Post Playhouse is not going to give it to us for free, but let me look into it.
150 for an eighth of a page, 300 for a quarter page, 600 for half a page, and 1,200 for full page. And I bet you the inside front cover and back outside cover is already sold, my guess, but could be wrong.
This would be in the program?
Yeah.
But they give to every person that goes in there. I say you'd be silly not to, even if it's just a small little portion. Because you reach a lot of out-of-towners, tourists, people that are staying out at the fort. Yeah.
I'd actually like to hold this over till we have the joint meeting between us and the golf course, because at this point, they continue to go over their budget. They continue to fight us on asking for extra money, and they want to send stuff like this our way when they could easily ask the leagues or anyone else that donates their way. It's not a big amount, so
Yep.
I'd like to hold it over to that meeting if you guys are okay with that.
Yep. Well, if we tabled it, that is our next meeting on the 2nd.
So we'll just take no action.
First, no action.
I do put in a recommendation for it though, as a community member and a former employee. So.
Sorry, Amanda?
Who brought up that one?
We don't have it listed.
I was saying, I wonder if.
I'm assuming it came from the board.
Or.
Misty had mentioned it at the last golf meeting,
Oh,
so, but it's neither here nor there, so.
Okay. Number 15 is discuss, approve, disapprove city's drug and alcohol policy. We'll do no action on that. That's something that Shane had wanted to bring up, and since he's sick, we'll give him the opportunity to make the calls he'd like to on that next week. 16, public comment. Anybody have anything left?
You know what?
It's 3 minutes per time limit per individual, please.
Well, what about that land the city owns, out by Moody's? Can you sell it? I know you used to lease it, but can you sell it?
We still lease it. You can sell it, but it has no fence, no access, no
Well, yeah,
water.
still sell it. I mean,
To who?
I don't know.
And we have a
Put it out there.
collateral.
Is it collateral?
We have a collateral.
It's also
for
LLC credit to the nursing home.
Is
Correct? At this time, it's for the nursing home line credit. And they are half owners on that, so that's okay for them.
Well,
So they'd have to agree with that. Sure.
We do have the old sewer plant.
Maybe check on that.
You know, honestly, you guys, will we get any revenue if we put the scale in there? I mean, do we get any revenue? Who gets the revenue? The Silver?
Anybody else have any, I'm sorry, we have to limit this to just comment and not question and answer is the purpose of this. Did anybody have any other comments that they'd like to make?
So, like, I just want to reinstate like what I said before, just as a council, if it does go through, I just ask that we could visit with our police department and the sheriff's office, you know, just regulating that street more. I see cars speeding down that street, I see semis speeding down that street. I know there's a stop sign, then they see that stop sign and then they start jake braking. I'm not asking to move the stop signs to the other place, but I just think that we need to patrol the area, even more so after if it does get approved. Just for the safety of our children, for the safety of our community. I'm all for it. I would like it to be moved north to the other location, but my opinion probably doesn't matter anyways.
So just as a general comment, I'll add, if you see anything that's an offense that needs to be called in and reported, please do so, because the city can. But anything that has additional is much appreciated.
We have, and we actually have observed our city employees running that stop sign right there on Elm and 1st Street. We have reported it to the police office. I know we have reported it to the city office before. And Jeannie sat down there for maybe 2 hours, and that was it for one day. I'm at home all day. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I watch those things. So I don't know if that's effective. So anyways, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and my comment is, I think we're all for the scale. I mean, all of us. We just want it further north. I know.
Jeff?
I just, thank you guys for serving on the council. Thank you for taking over the city clerk. I know that we've had a lot of turnover the past couple years. You stepped into one heck of a mess. We didn't have a budget for 20 months. We knew that this was coming. We knew that the city was not very well off. And I think we kind of got a little glimpse of that tonight. Hopefully we can do something to make it better. But thank you. I mean, we, like you said, everybody was real cordial tonight, even though we have differences of opinion. We're all here for the betterment of this community. And, you know, if brainstorming ideas, I mean, it sounded like they've done every single avenue, every single property around here to try to work for this scale. I'm all for it. If we can find a better spot, great. If it ends up down there, I mean, it sucks for us that live down there, but you know, that's the way it is. But you did say at the last council meeting that the semis hit the objects down around your business. Their residences and other, I mean, if they're hitting inanimate objects down there, there's a good chance they're gonna hit animate objects, whether it be a kid on a bike or vehicles or anything else like that. That's my biggest concern. So if we can do something like she said to patrol it better and enforce it, put up the signage for the Jake breaks and things like that. I mean, if the talk is talk, let's let the rubber meet the road.
Just for clarification, the one that hit, they drove one of our vehicles for 20 feet. That was a railroad subcontracted fuel truck, so it's not going to be weighing on that scale. It's been a 9-month process. We're still working on it.
Can we get somebody to check as far as the Jake brake signs, how many we can put on like First Street? Can we get that looked at? Instead of just at the end of town?
I mean, could we even lower the speed limit with it, you know, being right at the Perkins intersection?
Okay, any other public comment for our time?
Oh, maybe.
Sure.
So tonight I heard a lot about not having enough ordinances, ordinances aren't protecting us. I would just really, I like to see that we are trying to review our ordinances, we are trying to get back on top of things, and I appreciate that. I really think that's the way we need to go forward as a community. Reading these ordinances, getting them out, letting the community discuss so we can move forward and protect our community and better our community.
I'm gonna make your eyes go cross, try reading off the whole book of ordinances.
Absolutely.
You know?
All right.
I would like to say.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
So, I appreciate all the comments tonight, and, you know, it is very, obviously, vitally important now that we have a treasurer's report that I can believe, that we try to increase commerce in this town. There are things happening. I'm not going to speak to private business owners' business, but there are things happening, and it is vitally important that we all spend more of our dollars here in town, because the little bit of sales tax that the city does bring in from you know, Dollar General, Herons, all that stuff, it does help the bottom line of the city. So increasing, I mean, we have 90,000 plus people come through the fort 3 miles away, and this town does not do anything hardly to bring a few of those dollars in here. So I guess I encourage, if you have an idea, start up a business. Try to grab hold of some of those dollars. We can keep them here in town. That 90,000 people out there does actually generate wealth for the town. It's not, instead of just trading dollars back and forth, it actually brings new dollars in. It would, I would love to say that we can reopen that swimming pool soon. We just don't have the $650,000 just to fix what we have. But by increasing commerce in this town, we could get there. We really could. That's all I gotta say.
Again, thank you, everybody. We're gonna go to 17, approve bills, claims, and requisition orders and transfers, please.
I'll make a motion to approve. The only one I want us to investigate the electric bill that was extremely high at the clubhouse. I just want to see if we have a problem with the thermostat, or, you know, figure out what the problem is so it's not on every month's bill.
And that was a January bill, so it was during the cold. Sure, we can verify with that.
Second.
Thank you.
Scott?
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes. Can I motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Thank you for everybody coming out.
Second. Hey, Brooke.
Yes.
Brooke, you